I'm glad to see that you're also back. For those of you for the first time, hi, I'm Vivian, and today we will take a detour from the series I've started, and we will do this because I have a special topic for you today. We will talk about the Disclosure movie that I watched yesterday, and we really need to talk about it. So before we start, don't forget to subscribe to my channel, like this video, share it with someone, leave a comment if you feel like it. And besides that, I got my notes, I got my coffee, and of course I got Jesus. So let's do this. I will only spoil the necessary stuff for this video to make sense. Should you still watch my video? Yeah, especially if you are going to watch it, although the Holy Spirit told you not to watch it. And if you are not that founded, okay? If your foundation in Christ is not that strong yet and you're still gonna go watch it, then you should watch my video, then watch the movie, because then at least you're gonna know what you need to look out for. And my cat is here today with us too. So let me start by saying the movie is well made, okay? It's a well-made movie. It was interesting. There are many plot twists, and in general, it has a lot of things that good movies need to have for it to be good. But I need to say, we Christians, we speculated a lot about the movie. We speculated how it's gonna be, what they're gonna talk about, and we've made all of this online. And so watching the movie the movie was kind of disappointed after all of those, or disappointing after all of this speculation that we've done, because it is full of action, but it's not as spiritual as we thought it would be. But the devil is in the details, okay? It's in the small things that people don't realize it at first. So no, the movie was not very spiritual, but the things that were spiritual, well, we need to talk about it because they will be a great part of the Great Deception later on. Now, I need to say, this was a soft disclosure, okay? Now, the movie is moving along according with what the government is doing. The government gave us a soft disclosure, and so the film also gave us a soft disclosure. And there will most likely be a second Disclosure Day movie. I'm not saying this because I heard it. It's just the way the movie ended that makes me think that there will be a second part. I'm not gonna spoil the end, but it was an open end. And again, the way it ended, it just seems like there is more to come. And the only aliens that were displayed were Greys, just for you all to know. So here are the parts I will spoil and the parts that we need to talk about. First of all, there are two groups fighting for the information about the alien data. And of course, the one is the government that doesn't want us to find out about the aliens. And the other one is an unknown organization that wants us to find out about aliens. And it was mentioned that the group was an NGO, so a non-government organization. And second thing, they are fighting for the data because one of the main characters is a guy called Daniel Kellner, and he's a cybersecurity guy. He works for the government and he stole the data that he was supposed to guard, which is the alien data, and he did that because he started secretly working with the NGO that is working on disclosing the truth to the people. Now, third, the other main character is a weather girl. She's called Margaret Fairchild, and she works for the mainstream news, and she'll later be put in with this whole mess. And they did not mention, or it's not clear if Margaret and Daniel, if they are alien hybrids or if they are alien experiments. Fourth, the Greys, they are able to shapeshift into animals. To be more specific, deers, raccoons, foxes, and birds, but more specifically, the cardinal bird. Fifth, the things get interesting when the cardinal bird flies into the home of Margaret, and they have eye contact for a couple of seconds, and it's all amazing until the boyfriend shoos the bird away, right? And after this encounter, all of a sudden, she can speak in languages she never learned. She can read minds. She can predict near future. She can manipulate human perspective. For example, if you were to look at me, I would be able to show you or portray myself to you as a person that you know. Or she could track people down all times. So she just kind of became all-knowing almost. Now 6. Later we will find out that also Daniel had an encounter with Cardinal Bird 20 years before she had hers, and after this he became a mathematical genius, which led him to become a cybersecurity guy. 7th. In the middle of the weather forecast, she gets possessed by an alien. She starts talking in the alien language, and then she passes out. And of course, she ends up in a hospital, because could have been a stroke, right? 8th. I want to talk about the name Fairchild, because I've realized that the name Fairchild is a last name that is often used when we're talking about people that are highly gifted in a spiritual sense. And for example, when we talk about Claire Fairchild, you know, the chick from Shadowhunters, she's incredibly gifted and her gift surpasses the gifts of the other Shadowhunters. 9th. There is an alien device, and if I would compare it to anything we've known until now, it would be the wand of Harry Potter, because it can help you astral project, which means your body is in one place, but your soul is in another place, but also with your body at the same time. It can help you take over and manipulate the bodies and the minds of other people. It can show you forgotten memories, makes things invisible, and it can manipulate technology. Now, the first victim of this device was a Catholic woman, and the first thing she did after getting possessed, let's say, taken over by the FBI guy, was rip off her cross necklace. And we also need to talk about why Catholicism plays a big role in all of this. 10th, the alien language is mathematic. Okay, it's not. Because in the movie, the foundation of the universe is mathematics, okay? And the aliens were able to get this foundation and put it in language, and this language sounds like a click-clack, basically, like, I don't know, something like that. And since Daniel is a mathematical genius, he can understand this language. 11th, they mentioned once that the alien disclosure could cause people to fall away from faith and give up on God because they think that aliens actually are gods. And the big boss of this NGO, he said himself that the aliens are similar to God or godlike. 12th. Once Daniel and Margaret finally reached the NGO people, one of the women there, she took Margaret by the hand and she made this Catholic symbol cross, and then she bowed to her. And Margaret even said that she doesn't want to become a religion. And after she has this encounter with the Cardinal Bird, she kind of but she starts behaving a little bit like Jesus. Let me just put it that way. 13th, they said Daniel was made to understand the universe, and Margaret was made to help aliens understand humans. 14th, we'll see what the animals symbolize that the Greys can shapeshift into. 15th, Margaret describes the home that she was brought to by the aliens as the witch house of Hansel and Gretel. 16th, the disclosure day happened in the mainstream media in Kansas City, and all mainstream media all over the world caught up to it, watched it, and showed it around the world. And lastly, we will talk how the disclosure did affect the disclosure they had on people. So let's break it down. Let's start with the first step. I'm not going to say that there's no such things as NGOs, okay? Because they do exist, but the major NGOs, they are funded by the government and controlled by them too, and if not the government, by one of the 13 families that run the world. Now, the real NGOs, really non-government organizations, they would never in their lives be able to have such big information such as the existence of aliens, but the movie is telling us otherwise. It's telling us that there are such things as big NGOs that are indeed not government funded, and they have the best interest in heart of the common folk. Sure they do. They've proved that so many times. Second, well, let's go back to what Trump said, right? Because Daniel, the cybersecurity guy, he said that he wants to disclose the aliens things because the people deserve to know it, which is the same thing that Trump said. But let's be completely honest, Trump just did that so that we can forget the Epstein files, right? And the involvement of the very big names in the world and his own name. But disclosure day, this disclosure that he gave was more than just a distraction from the Epstein files. It's supposed to make it look like it's a distraction, but there is another reason for it. And probably it is because it will cause the fall of Babylon. And the fall of Babylon will make way for the Antichrist. And we can read this in Revelation 17:16. As for the 10 horns that you saw, they and the beast will hate the prostitute. They will destroy her and strip her bare. They will devour her flesh and burn her with fire. Now the prostitute is Babylon. Babylon is the current system we live in. This system needs to fall for the Antichrist system to be established. And this film, or this disclosure in general, this will play a major part in it. Because after the Antichrist comes with the aliens, and he'll say things like, oh, they gave you this tiny disclosure to distract you from their perversion. And once I'm in power, I will give you full disclosure. And they will pay for all of the actions that they did against humanity, especially the acts that they committed against women, men, boys, and girls on that island. Now, mind you, none of them will actually get punished. None of them. And they will not go to prison. I mean, they will be punished when they go to hell, but here on earth, they'll be fine. It will only seem like they will be punished. It will seem like it, but then they will just disappear somewhere. Either that, or they will change their looks and their personality and their identity to work for the Antichrist. Now, what you need to understand, the government is pretending to want to hold on to this current system. They have to pretend, because it would mean that they are trying to hold on to their power. But Babylon is the system that will make way for the Antichrist system, which is why she needs to fall. Now, because Babylon, the people working in Babylon, working on the system, they will be rewarded by the Antichrist, because again, they will make way for the Antichrist, and the Antichrist will not just let them, have nothing out of it, because it was a whole lot of work. So they will get rewarded, but they will tell us that they're going to be punished. But when we go back to the movie, Daniel, the weather girl, Margaret, and the NGO, they are the one that caused disclosure. But in real life, it was Trump. So what they're trying to say is, look, not all presidents are evil and want to keep the country in the dark. Meanwhile, again, his name is in the files. And this tells people, okay, Trump did this for his selfish reasons because he wants us to be distracted. But the Antichrist, he will be an honest man. He will give us full disclosure. Because he's the actual good guy that wants righteousness. He's not giving us all of this for distraction, but because he trusts us, he believes in us, and he doesn't think that we are too dumb to make our own decisions or to make up our own minds. Third, again, we don't know if Margaret and Daniel, if they are human hybrids or alien human hybrids, or if they are experiments of the aliens. But what we do know is that both of them were abducted because 4 aliens came into their room disguised as the animals that we mentioned, and they led them into this house, laid them down on a kind of see-through bed. And what happened then is kind of hard to explain, right? But I told you about this device. They kind of lined up the device that the points of it kind of form a circle, and then they used this and they approached their eyes like very, very, very close. And I know how this seems like, right? Like, oh, that wasn't that bad. I mean, they didn't hurt him. So, but of course, the kids, they didn't remember the abduction, which is normal. When you get abducted, you don't remember what happened to you. You don't even remember that you were abducted. You don't even know that. But when the time came for them to remember, they instinctively panicked. And when I say panic, they were terrified which makes me think that actually more happened than just this thing with the eyes. Because again, I bet that they've been set to do some horrific stuff, okay? So in their subconscious, made them forget because it was so horrible. But then we see that was all, right? Came closer to their eyes, nothing major happened. So yeah, when aliens abduct people, they don't hurt us, they don't cut us open, they don't probe us or whatever. They do harmless stuff with us, right? Sure, because the few that actually remember what happened after their abduction, they are exceptions, right? The aliens just had a really bad day and did horrific stuff to them just because they had a bad day. But it's also interesting that the two children, they were abducted when they were children, they were 10 years old. So old enough to start to understand the world around them, but still young enough to be easily deceived by others, especially if what they're saying is convincing enough. Fourth, the alien shapeshifting into animals. Here we can start talking about the aliens being fallen angels and demons. I made a series about this already, as the Spiritual Realm series. I'll put the link in the description box. And I said that aliens can shapeshift because they're fallen angels. And I specifically said that the Greys are demons. They are demons, but the fallen angels, they created the gray bodies so that the demons can inhabit it. And the fallen angels would be their masters, which are the Nordics. And it wouldn't surprise me if they somehow gave the gray bodies the ability to shapeshift. Because angels, and the fallen angels, they are the only ones that can actually shapeshift. And we can read it in Ezekiel, he describes an angel species with 4 faces. Ezekiel 1:10. As for the form of their faces, each of the 4 had a human face with a lion's had a human face with a lion's face on the right, a bull's face on the left, and also an eagle's face. There are several parts of the Bible that shows that angels have different forms, including a human and an angelic form. Fifth, let's talk about the possession of Margaret on live while doing the weather forecast. There is no other creature and no other entity in this universe that is able to possess anybody besides demons and fallen angels. Again, the only aliens being shown are the Greys. The Greys are demons, and this part of the film proves perfectly what I'm saying. There is a whole thing called exorcism, because it is common for demons to possess humans, and this is exactly what happened with Margaret and with Daniel. Exorcists, they say that it's very common for possessed individuals to start speaking languages that they never learned, and sometimes they will even speak dead languages like Latin or ancient Greek. Now, in Margaret's case, she started talking Russian and Korean, and for a short time period, she spoke the alien language with its mathematics. Now, later we found out that Daniel was able to understand what she said while being possessed. And one of the things that the aliens said through her is, don't be afraid of the unknown. Not, don't be afraid of aliens, be afraid of the unknown. Because although we seem to know a lot about the spiritual realm, especially the demonic realm, the truth is, we only know a little bit compared to the actual deal. Now, we know enough to rebuke and resist the evil that comes from the demonic realm. But since we think we know all about it, we would never think that the unknown, what they mean with the unknown is the spiritual realm, right? But rather something unknown, and as the government is trying to teach us that those are physical unknown beings from another physical realm, and they're just a different species from us, and they come from another world. Sixth, Daniel became a mathematical genius also after he encountered this bird, this cardinal bird, right? That it was an alien disguised as this bird. But what happened here with Daniel is the exchange of knowledge. Okay, he got possessed. The demon gave him this huge mathematical knowledge and then disappeared. Because of this knowledge, Daniel can understand the alien language, and this automatically made him become a cyber security guy. and to secure the data of the aliens that he then had the urge to disclose to the world. So he became a puppet for the aliens to do their bidding. And this happens automatically. You don't necessarily need to become possessed to become a puppet. Sometimes it is indeed enough to become their puppets only by accepting a knowledge that they give you. Because the thing is, this knowledge will always deceive you. And it will never be completely true, but it will be true enough for you to feel special, for you to feel called for a greater mission that will change the world. And with that, you don't need to be possessed by them to do what they say, because if they give you enough of an ego boost, you will do their bidding yourself while thinking that you are doing it because you want to do it. And yes, I am saying that Margaret is now constantly possessed. Because, again, for Daniel, he only needed this exchange of knowledge. But she is portraying supernatural powers that angels have, and powers that even Jesus showed while he was here on earth. Now, Jesus predicted the future, and he could look into people's minds. Those are two things that angels cannot do. Now, Jesus and angels, of course, they can speak all the human language that exists in this world, and Jesus knows exactly where everybody is the whole time because he is all-knowing. Now, the only difference here is that she can show herself to be a deceased loved one, and she used this power when she was trying not to get catched, or wanted to prevent Daniel and her to get catched by the government. Now, it's not that Jesus and the angels are not willing or not able to do that. They are, but they don't do this because this would be deception. And the only realm that deceives people is the demonic realm. So there are demons called familiar spirits and monitoring spirits. They have watched you since you were born, and if you don't rebuke and forbid them to do so, they will watch you until the day you die. And they wait for moments where you're very vulnerable, and a very vulnerable moment is, of course, when you lose a loved one, right? So they wait for you to reach a certain point, the deepest points of your sorrow, and then they will call a fallen angel to come to manipulate you and use the grief, because only the only the angels and the fallen angels are able to shapeshift. Demons cannot do that because they are spirits, souls. Now, a good example for a case like this would be the case of a teenage boy that lost his grandmother. And he was so sad and depressed. And the monitoring spirit waited for his deepest and lowest point of his grief, as I already mentioned. And then he called upon the fallen angel. The fallen angel one day appeared to this boy as his grandmother, as the ghost of his grandmother. And she said that she's in heaven. Heaven is beautiful, it's wonderful, it's a place where she's very happy. And she really, really wished that he was with her. And she said that he could be with her. All that he needs to do is to kill himself, and then he would be with her in heaven. Now, thankfully, the boy grew up in a Christian household. He told his parents about the encounter, and completely horrified, of course, they called their pastor, told them what happened. The pastor came, prayed over the home, prayed over the child, rebuked the evil spirits, and since then the boy has never seen his grandmother's ghost again. So the fact that she can do that says that she's not only being possessed by a demon, but actually by a fallen angel. So while both were visited by a carnal bird, they were both actually visited by different entities disguised as this carnal bird. We can skip part 7 because I only put it there for the story to make more sense now. Now, 8th, the last name Fairchild is an Old English word, and its origin derived from the words figure or figure, which is fair or beautiful, and child, which means child, so beautiful child. And if we look back at all the characters that are highly gifted with supernatural powers, that are connected to the spiritual realm, such as Claire Fairchild from the Shadowhunters, they are all beautiful humans with incredible talents. Most of them are also said to be God's people, so they work close to God, they worship God. But like the example with the Shadowhunters, they don't worship God, they worship Angels. Heavenly angels, they don't want to be worshipped. We can read it in Revelations 19:10. Then I fell at his feet to worship him, but he said, "Don't do that. I'm a servant, just like you and your brothers and sisters who hold firmly to the witness of Jesus. Worship God. The witness of Jesus is the spirit of prophecy." Fallen angels, they want their worship. Something also very interesting about the shadow hunters is that at some point in the series, they come to a place where they read a plaque where it says in Latin something in the lines of, "The path of the Nephilim leads downwards," and they went downwards because this is where they needed to go. So they are Nephilims, the shadow hunters. So in every movies and series where there is somebody named Fairchild, it has something to do with a spiritual deception in the sense of, oh, they fight for good, they bring light and goodness, while they either worship other entities or they worship nothing, but they're still somehow connected to the spiritual realm. And we all know if you're not connected to God, you're connected to the devil. And or they work with the demons, they work with creatures of the darkness like vampires and werewolves, and yet they are the good guys. So when we get beautiful and child, we actually get beautiful and innocent Fairchild. 2 Corinthians 11:14 says, "And no wonder even Satan disguises himself as an angel of light." And that's exactly what the devil and the government and all of those big names are trying to teach us. Whatever Christians and God calls demons or evil are actually misunderstood beings. I broke the specific down in another video I made, which is called Romanticizing Evil. I'll put the link in the description box below. And I think the other main reason why I wanted to look up the name Fairchild is because it sounds so similar to Rothschild. Do with that whatever you want. Now, point 9 and 12. I explained that the alien device, right? In the beginning, I explained it to you how it worked. Now let's talk about how Catholicism plays a role in this deception. By the way, I made a video also called "Catholicism is the Greatest Religious Deception." I will also put the link below. So in the movie, we have a Catholic girl or woman, and she gets possessed by an FBI agent using this alien device. And he wants to control her, and he does. He manages to take over her, and again, the first thing she does is rip away her cross necklace, and he uses this cross as a way to hurt her if she doesn't do as he says. Now here's the interesting part. This device, it gives humans the ability similar to demons, right? So you would think that being a Catholic would save you from being possessed. I made, again, look at my video about Catholicism being a fake religion or a satanic religion that is disguised as Christianity. So not only does she rip her cross off, but then he sits down with her, or better said, his soul sits down with her, but she can see him. And because he can't control her mind, he starts asking her questions that she has to answer. But here's the thing, even though he could do that, he didn't have full control over her body and her soul yet. A bit control, yes, but not all of it. He used the cross to have her squeeze it on her hands until it started to bleed. And anytime she would refuse to answer him a question, she would squeeze the cross harder into her hands, right? And making the wound deeper. So, and the more she answered the question, the more control he got over her. And every time she would refuse, again, squeeze the cross, more pain. And then he asked her to do something. At first, she said no. She squeezed the cross, and then she said yes. And then he took over completely, and she started acting like a robot. Or, in other words, she became possessed and started behaving like a puppet. This part reminded me of the old movies where vampires were still depicted as the monsters that they actually are. Because in those old movies, you could see that they could never enter a home if they weren't invited. right? And it's the same thing. It's the same example here. He was only able to possess her because she gave in, because she agreed to do certain stuff. Better saying, the wider she opened the door, the more power he got. And the same principle goes for demons. They cannot enter if you don't let them in. But if you open the door, and only you can open the door, they will come in. Now, the role of Catholicism played in this movie is basically the embracing aliens and calling them good creatures and all of that. Now, I said basically because there was just this one nun that said something in the lines of, humans are God's greatest creation on earth, not the universe. And yes, I understand why it seems like I'm stretching here in this one, but how is the Pope behaving? What is the things that he is saying? He's doing and saying many things that goes against the Bible. Let's not forget the Antichrist will have a one world government and a one world religion. The Pope is already putting all religions in one bucket and making them all legit, making them equals, and he's saying that they're all correct in truth. He's also going against the Bible by approving gay marriage, or he himself is giving into this new age religion, right? He's giving himself into it, and he's getting people to believe in it as well. So, the movie mentioned the dangers of people falling away from faith and starting to believe that aliens are the actual God. Now, we have the Pope destroying Christianity by putting them in the same box as other religions. Now, what do you think will happen when the Antichrist shows up and the actual aliens? I'm just saying. Now, sorry. Went down the wrong throat a bit there. But what strengthened the fact that the Catholic Church is indeed a deception, what strengthened this the most was the woman that got the hand of Margaret did this cross sign and bow down to her in the way of like, yeah, I want to worship you now. First of all, have you ever realized that this cross sign that they do in Catholicism is actually an inverted cross? And second of all, I said that Margaret got possessed, right? And that she started behaving like Jesus after this. Now, it's not just what she did, but the way she talked, the way she predicted the future correctly, and how she looked at people full of love and kindness and understanding. So here we have the Catholic Church claiming to follow Jesus, a woman doing the Catholic cross sign and wanting to bow to a woman that behaves like Jesus. Doesn't that sound like they're trying to portray Margaret that is either an alien hybrid or an alien experiment to be Jesus? Because let's not forget that the government and the UFO and alien files, they already stated that aliens created all religions, including Jesus. And let's not forget, the Bible says that the Antichrist will do signs and wonders and people will believe that he is God. But who is actually God? Is Jesus. 2 Thessalonians 2:9, when the people who is the lawless comes, it will happen through Satan's effort with all kinds of fake power, signs, and wonders. So for people to believe that the Antichrist is God, he needs to behave Jesus-like, which is also what this woman is doing in the Disclosure Day movie. Point 10th and 11th. Those points strengthens the claim that aliens are true God or the actual true gods. Because, again, in the movie, the foundation of the universe is mathematics. Not God, mathematics, a human concept. And here we have aliens that were so smart that they were able to transform the foundations of the universe into a language. And once again, they mentioned that the disclosure could get people to fall away from belief and believe that aliens are actually God. And doesn't this remind us of something? Right, there was this guy from the government calling the pastors and telling them to prepare the church because they're not ready for what will come. They were not ready for the disclosure, right? And again, of course, the big boss of the NGO in the movie said that the aliens are godlike. We can skip 13 because I explained it already in the beginning, so let's go down to 14. Let's see what the animals symbolize that the aliens can transform into. So deers symbolize gentleness, intuition, spiritual renewal, and grace. Cardinal bird represents or symbolize past loved ones watching over you, hope and vitality. Raccoons symbolizes adaptability, curiosity, and resourcefulness. And lastly, fox symbolizes intelligence, adaptability, and cunning. Do I need to say more? I don't think so. So 15th. Margaret describes the house she and Daniel were brought to by the aliens as the house of the witch of Hansel and Gretel. So we looked at the alien device, right? And we saw that this is an object of sorcery. So several of those objects were put nearby their eyes. So which means that this experiment, whatever you want to call it, is the door that was opened that made the possession in the future possible. So if the alien device is the object of sorcery, that means that the aliens are the witches. But what did the witch of Hansel and Gretel want from the beginning? Or what did she do? Well, she enslaved the girl and wanted to eat the boy. We said Margaret was now possessed forever, right? So in another word, she's forever the slave of this demon, in this case, the witch. Yes, Daniel was not eaten. That's true. But do you know what happened after he got possessed? He started to not like humans anymore, and he completely isolated himself until he met his girlfriend, who is the Catholic woman that was possessed by the FBI agent. What happened to Hansel? He was imprisoned, and his only companion was his sister that was the slave of the witch. When I tell you the devil's in the details, I mean it. We need to stop looking at things superficially and dig deep, because they just mentioned Hansel and Gretel. They just mentioned it twice, like in a fun way, in a funny way, like, yeah, this reminded me of the witch house of Hansel and Gretel, like, no big deal. 16th. The only thing I can say about this is that we don't trust mainstream media, right? All over the world, people are not trusting their mainstream media anymore. But in the movie, disclosure happened through the mainstream media. But again, the soft disclosure. And it was just enough for people to forget about the Epstein files. And since Trump, or in other words, the government, gave us this disclosure, you could say it came from the mainstream media. So what about the true disclosure? Well, again, the Antichrist will come. He will win our trust, probably through the actual disclosure. And since we will believe him and trust him, and he will be in control of the mainstream media, we will watch the mainstream media, right? We will continue watching it. He will establish a one world government under his control, and he will make the one world religion where he is the one worshipped as God, because people will be convinced that he is God because of these wonders that he will do, just like Margaret did these wonders with the things that she predicted, and people started believing that she is indeed God. And here is a correlation that God gave me, okay? The devil copies God, right? So we have the Holy Trinity, which is God, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit. And then there is the unholy Trinity, which is Satan, the Antichrist, and the false prophet. They're all depicted in the movie. The grays are the devil, in the sense. Daniel is a false prophet because he speaks the language of the aliens, which means he's the only one that can communicate with them. And because he's a false prophet, they took the name Daniel to pervert it, because Daniel was actually the prophet of God in the Bible. Margaret is the Antichrist because she is the one that behaves like Jesus, does wonders, and she is the one that gave the disclosure about aliens on the news. And she is also the one that the humans are willing to worship. Now, lastly, the disclosure had people questioning their identity as humans and their place in the universe. And this is already happening, but because it's the soft disclosure, it hasn't led to the big falling away yet. This is a tiny part of the great deception, and the great falling away is still to come. And we know this because in this particular area, scripture has not fulfilled himself or itself yet. Matthew 24:24 says, false Christs and false prophets will appear, and they will offer great signs and wonders in order to deceive, if possible, even those whom God has chosen. This hasn't happened yet. Yes, people are falling away, but enough people still trust Jesus that it cannot be the great falling away yet. This is still to come. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. Thank you for listening to me. I hope my thought process was understandable. I hope it makes sense. And again, don't forget to like this video, share it, subscribe to my channel, leave a comment if you feel like it. Yeah, now I'm gonna finish my coffee and then I'm gonna go chill. So, God bless you, God loves you. Have a wonderful day or rest of your week, no matter when you're watching this. And we'll see each other next time. Bye!